Okay, so it's time for the September wrap up, but before I get into all the reading, I wanted to do just a little bit of a life and channel update here. I know it's a bit of a clickbait thing, but I turned 50 in the month of September, and I have been running for about 20 years now. I don't know why I got into running. I think when I got my first desk job, I was looking for another way to become a little bit more active. And I had slowly been working my way up. I had ran some marathons, I ran some 50Ks, but I kind of thought it would be neat to run a 50-mile race before I turned 50. So back in December, my wife found a race, a 50-mile race, on my birthday in one of my favorite national parks, which is Bryce Canyon. And so in December, I went ahead and signed up for this race, and I had spent most of the summer doing a lot of training, tons and tons of hours of running to kind of prepare for this. And so just a little bit ago, we went down to Utah. A bunch of friends from Alaska and Phoenix came and met us there. We had a whole week of hiking in the national parks in Utah, and then race day came up. I guess all the training really paid off because I did really well. I exceeded what I thought I was going to do it in. It ended up taking me 11 hours and 45 minutes, but that was good enough to be 14th place out of like 112 people that did the 50-mile race. So it was just an awesome experience, kind of a different way to celebrate a 50th birthday, but had a lot of fun with it. And talking about the channel now, I had mentioned that I was going to be really busy over the summer. All that training and traveling we did and everything really took a lot of time. And so I kind of put a lot of collaborations and things on the channel on hold. I still did plenty of reading and uploading review videos, but something I've really enjoyed lately has been the collaborations that I've done lately. So now that this is kind of behind me and we're going into fall, I would like to do more collaborations with other booktubers or maybe even viewers, just kind of open it up. Hit me up on my email if you'd like to do anything here in the future. And I also have some more ideas for the channel. I have a couple kind of more ambitious videos that I've been thinking about and kind of reading up on, some authors I'd like to focus on. And so maybe this fall I'm going to have some kind of more polished, scripted type videos that dig a little bit deeper, a little bit more professional from what I normally do. But that's kind of what I'm thinking about here in the future. But let's kind of now get into my reading month for September. So the first book I read in September was The Mind Traders by J. Hunter Hawley. My wife picked this one up as a wife's wildcard pick, and this book was great. It was kind of like a human and alien story where a human is sent to this alien world to kind of do some detective work, and his partner is one of these aliens. It was done really well. It was a very short book. It was the first thing I'd read from Hawley. It's just 143 pages. I highly recommend this book. If you see this out in the wild, you could probably pick it up for next to nothing. And it was very entertaining. It does have some telepathy in there, which a lot of books from that era couldn't avoid, but still it was definitely a surprise hit for me. And then after that was J.G. Ballard's The Crystal World. This was the first Ballard I'd read, and this was really good. Ballard really paints this bizarre phenomenon of this crystallization that's happening in parts of the planet. His writing in those scenes were just some of the best writing I've read for a while. Overall, the story was really great. There was, a bunch of stuff going on, but that kind of element of the crystallization was what really carried the story for me. Then next up was Fire Flood and Other Stories by Von N. McIntyre. This is a collection of short stories, and they were a bit hit and miss, almost like all of these short story collections. There were some that were really good, some that were just okay, and some I didn't like so much. They all had a bit of a kind of darker tone to them. There was a lot of characters that are in these horrible situations, and they're kind of just it's their inner workings of their mind, how they are trying to adapt to these really bizarre, strange circumstances. But there was some really notable ones in there as well. Okay, then after that was Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon. This was fantastic. I had been wanting to read this for a really long time. It doesn't really read like a novel. It's more just speculative fiction. But man, Olaf Stapledon, he was writing some amazing things back in like the 30s, maybe even before that. But he puts a lot of philosophy into his works. And this one just has an immense scope. I don't think anybody's really come close to a book like this since he wrote this. There's been a lot of imitators, a lot of ideas that he spits out in this book that people took and wrote novels about, but wow, what a book. Okay, then after that was Year of the Quiet Sun by Wilson Tucker. This was a very cool, interesting time story, or time travel story. And I really liked how Wilson Tucker set the ground rules for how the time travel needed to work. And there's always some interesting concepts around time travel paradoxes, and he handles those very interesting well. He's a very literate writer. It was a really great book. It wasn't perfect, but man, this one has stuck with me. And I think if time travel stories are done well, they kind of stick with you, and you keep thinking about how some of these ideas would play out. It can turn your brain into a pretzel, but really enjoyed that one. And then the last book I read in September was Dan Simmons' Song of Kali. This was a straight up horror book. This was Dan Simmons' first published novel, and it takes place in Calcutta, India, most all of it. And man, he really describes the city in an interesting way. Brian from Bad Taste Books says, yeah, that he made a comment in the video that he almost makes the city a character, and I couldn't agree more. It was done really well. You could see all of Dan Simmons' things he has going on that I've read from later novels, how he really can suck you into the narrative and the story. It just, it was his first book. It didn't seem quite as polished to me. I still really enjoyed it. And I think something I didn't really think of too much when I did the review is, if you read this right when it came out and you had no other Dan Simmons books to compare it to, this would be phenomenal. But I've read some of his more popular works. I've read Hyperion and Boy's Life. Yeah, Boy's Life. And so, like, comparing this to that, I didn't really put it into the right context. So probably a little bit better book than I gave it credit for. But anyways, let's pick out the book of the month. If you watched any of my reviews, it's going to be Star Maker by Olaf Stapledon. Just a fantastic book. Like I said, I've never read anything like it. It's going to be a book that I want to reread probably over and over, because there's just so much he goes over in that story. But, and of all these books that I read in September, I've done video reviews, so I'll post links to those down in the description. Okay, now let's get into October. So I'm reading Gem, almost done with this one. That'll be the first video review that comes out next on the channel. I'd like to read Deathbird Stories by Harlan Ellison, kind of a spooky season thing to incorporate some of these Ellison short stories that I've read. I think, so I'm coming up to book number 100 in this series that I'm doing, The Masterpieces of Science Fiction by Easton Press. It's 140 books that I've been reading through. And so I wanted to make book 100 pretty notable in a way. And so I'm thinking about reading the full Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov. This will be a reread for me, but this could mark a kind of a milestone in this reading journey that I'm going on for book 100. So we'll see. I'm kind of kicking that around. Got The Insect Warriors by Rex Dean Levy. The wife picked this out as the next wildcard pick. Happened to be the same day that that Jake over at Pulp Mortem announced he was going to be reading this. So kind of cross paths a little bit on that one. I haven't watched his video of that one yet, but I still think I'm going to read that and give everyone my thoughts on that. Didn't make it to Past Master from R.A. Lafferty. I really didn't know that Year of the Quiet Sun was a time travel story, and so I didn't want to go back-to-back time travel stories, but probably will hit that up sometime in October. Also, if I can get around to The Dream Master by Zelazny, that's kind of a carryover from what I wanted to read in September. Now, the rest of these books here, I got some kind of more spooky season-related stories that I'd like to read. I'd already picked this out, The Rats by James Herbert, and just today I was watching Robin over at Bookspin's video for his monthly wrap-up, and he said he's going to be reading this in October. What a coincidence. I left a comment on his channel. Maybe we'll do a buddy read, so maybe look for that over on his channel. And then I've got a couple ideas here. I've got some real classics. I have never read Frankenstein. I haven't read Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So I might try to get to one of those in the month. And I also have this Charles L. Grant book, The Pet, which just going to kind of leave that to maybe a mood read. Try to pick at least one of those three out as well. So let me know what you read in September. Let me know what your favorite books were and maybe what you're gonna try to read in October. But other than that, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.